Well, a couple of things. Gosh, it's the middle of the week, so that means I've got to forget all kinds of stuff, right? Okay, let me get myself discombobulated here. Oh, did that. Here I am, just fat, dumb, and happy. Forgot to turn on the light. Forgot to plug in the mic. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to our first Wednesday night. Rebecca and John, right? And then Utah Mike and Muskoka Oma. I hope I got that right. I have been very KP Heathen. Good evening. I have been so privileged. I've met 4 of our YouTube subscribers who have come here to the area, and I've had the opportunity to have lunch and eat with them and meet with them, and just wow! I tell you what, it's just phenomenal. So Darla and Rebecca and John, and then Sue Me. Just thank you all. Just it's special. So thank you for doing that. Hello, Kaylin. I'm going to talk about your love here just a little bit tonight. So we're going to be talking about, of course, we're continuing on with our discussion, chapter 2 of the Ultimate Prepper Pantry Survival Guide. The link for it is going to be in the show notes if you want to get it. Now, do remember, it doesn't cost you any money, but I do get 2% as a referral fee if you use the link that's in the show notes and you want a copy of this book. I like Carlos Mack's books. The only thing I don't like about them is they're all black and white. I would like to see a little bit of color pictures in them, good information. I'm also reading his book on nuclear war. So there's just all kinds of good stuff in here. He's got a couple good books. I've also got his book on foraging, and just this guy. I would like to have him as a member of my team. Just all kinds of good stuff. Sue Me, I was just talking about you. Welcome. Good to see you. Saying that I've had the privilege of meeting and eating and running around with 4 different people from the channel, and you were one of them. Of course, you're the one who drove the farthest from Canada down here. So thank you for being here. And but anyhow, what a great book. For those of you who don't know, okay, and let me grab my Bible. This not to preach, but to share something with you. Because at my morning prayer, I subscribe to an email called the Morning Prayer. And if I can find James here, 1 John, it should be right in here. There it is. So I have this aversion to tests. I mean, oh man. I have this real aversion to tests. And so I scheduled myself to take my ham radio license for the general license this last Saturday. And oh man, I bought a video program. A good friend of mine, Earl, gave me his study guide. I bought another study guide. I highlighted the answers and went through, and I did the calculations, and always came up close. So I figured, well, close is good enough. Finally, I was stressed out to the max Saturday morning. Went to our ham radio club breakfast, and came home, and then I opened up my morning prayer. And my morning prayer had James 1, 5 through 8. So let me read that to you because this is really poignant. So the scripture for that morning was, "But if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives to all generously and ungrudgingly, and he will be given it. But it should be asked in faith, not doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed about by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord, since he is a man of 2 minds, unstable in his own ways." So I just had to commit and say, you know what? I've done everything I can. There's no need to worry about it. I've done what I can. Go in and do it. I went in and did it and passed with colors. So I was very, very happy. So I just needed that little touch on the shoulder saying, you can do this. You got it. And that worked extremely well. So I am now a general class licensed ham, and grateful for that. So I'm not probably not going to go for the extra here in the next year or two. Probably going to stay right here at the general level, and we'll just keep it that way. And I want to master the general level before I do anything else. I'm going to insert some of my own personal opinion about Chapter 2, what we're going to be talking about this evening, that I think is going to be critical for where we are. This is also very applicable for what we are currently doing as far as the storm that's coming throughout the country. Sue, me, and I were chatting this morning about relative temperatures, and I mean, her high is going to get below our low, and I remember those conditions in Germany, and so, you know, she's got it a lot colder than we have it here, and but you know, we don't prepare for it here either. Our pipes are only like 6 inches in the ground, whereas up in the north, they're down like 3 feet. So I understand that. Here's one of the advantages of cold winter weather is nice hot chocolate. I love hot chocolate, which is another thing you need to add to your prepper pantry. I've got probably 5 number 10 cans of Swiss Miss chocolate that are in my pantry in the bedroom. So Helen's laughing, and but you know, Swiss Miss is great with or without marshmallows. It doesn't matter.
Drinking chocolate at the end of the world.
Helen's laughing. At the end of the world, we'll still be drinking hot chocolate. Yep, that's true. Good evening, Creative Redundancy. Good to see you, Muskoka Oma, Tammy Harder, Little Lone Prepper. Gosh, look at all these fantastic people joining us. So. Jean Sen, good evening, welcome. Let me see, did I miss anybody? Gosh, I hope not. Diana too. I said Utah Mike, I'm sure. And wow, okay, there we are. We're caught up here. So building your 90-day survival food stockpile, a foundation of security. He puts himself as a quote, stockpiling food is like having insurance for your family's survival. I've highlighted a couple things. So determining caloric and nutritional requirements, make sure you take those into consideration. Calories is what keeps us alive. So the general guideline is to have at least 2,000 calories per day per person, which is the average daily caloric intake. Now we're going to modify that over time, okay? So don't say, you know, that 2,000 is it. There are things we have to take into consideration. Age will be a variable factor in caloric intake. So younger children don't require as many calories as do older adults. An 8-year-old boy might need around 1,600 to 200 calories a day, while an active adult male requires 22 to 3,200 calories per day. Gender plays a significant role. Males will typically require about 200 to 400 calories per day more than a female is, and that's just sedentary. Hello, Pete, Triple G Farms. Good evening. Good to see you. I was just talking to somebody about your area. Who was it? Anyhow, I was just commenting about, somebody I know knows somebody who has a bunker not far from you, and evidently just a real active prepper. And so I hope he wasn't talking about you. Gen X Gemini, good evening. Welcome. I haven't seen that name before, Tammy Harder. But welcome, first time. So happy to see you here with us. So anyhow, but I thought that was very interesting. Okay, activity level. So the more you work, the more you do it, the more active you are, the more calories you're going to burn, of course. Also, weather has a lot to do with it. So probably winter and summer, you're going to use a lot more calories than you will during the spring and fall. Underlying health conditions can also affect your overall caloric requirements. If you have restrictions on your food, for example, if you have diabetes mellitus, or if you have heart condition, lung condition, there may be certain physical conditions that you are restricted in how many calories you can take in and expend. So those have to be taken into consideration as well. I think that, just using 2,000 as a planning is a good basis. I think that, if you have a male, female, adult child mix, everything will kind of equal out in the long term. You might even want to up that a little bit and plan for 2,400 calories per day. Types of survival food, a comprehensive guide to preserving. He talks an awful lot about canning your own. Sumi and I have been talking. My latest Azure Standard haul was primarily canning supplies. I still don't have a pressure canner. I've been looking at Goodwill and places like that. I don't want to spend as much money. But and Sue was telling me that to make sure that it has a flat bottom, because a lot of times people get rid of them because of the warped bottom, and that's not good. Of course, I imagine Rebecca could teach me an awful lot about canning as well. But I showed it in a haul video maybe a month ago that I got the Ball Guide to Canning book. And so I've been studying up on that. And so, yeah, canning is one of those things you can do now to prepare for the future. Goes through all kinds of steps to do it, what equipment is necessary, food safety, and things like that. And he says canning foods where convenience meets reliability. So the more you can for yourself, the less expensive it is per container overall than going out and buying things, whether that be freeze-dried or dehydrated or anything else. Now, it is a cost barrier to get into it because you've got to buy the canning equipment, the jars, and everything else, the time that you have to put in to learn how to do it. But once you have all that mastered, then it becomes very, very cost effective. Okay. So Rebecca says, yeah, she uses All American. So does Muskoka Oma. So we've got a couple canners in here who can teach me how to do this. That is great. So thank you very much for that. I know Sue can as well. As a matter of fact, what was it? She was just canning turkey, I believe, over the weekend. One of the things I also like that Mr. Mack does in his books is he gives you indicators to look at for your canned goods, and I'm talking about home canned goods. Some of the colors and things like that, identifiers of when it has gone bad. And so one of the advantages, I keep saying in everything we do in preparedness, that there are advantages and disadvantages. Everything has a cost effect, right? Difference. And so you have to make up your mind which it is you prefer. One of the beautiful things about home canning is it's in glass jars. So you can see the actual product in its state inside the jar. So you can tell ahead of time whether or not it's gone bad, unlike let's say a normal tin can, let's call it, that you would purchase at the store that's sealed and you can't see through it. You don't know. So the only way you have there is to tell us if the can is bulging, or once you open it, if there's an odor or something like that. So there's a lot more safety, in my opinion, in having the ability to see through the glass and being able to see your product before you open it. So he has, know when to discard is a lot of good stuff there. He talks about freeze-dried foods, the advantages and disadvantages. They're lightweight and nutrient-packed. They are a little bit more expensive. They also require that you have a lot of water. Excuse me, I've got to do something here real quick. I'll be right back. I was hearing a high squeaky noise in my lungs, and so I had to take some medicine and get rid of that. They're lightweight. They're compact. They don't take up as much space. However, you do have to store water to rehydrate them. So that's a disadvantage. One thing I really like about freeze-dried. Now, when we talk about freeze-dried, let's talk about the various types of freeze-dried. So you have components and you have meals, okay? And I have both. I'll be honest with you. The advantage to a meal, the advantage to any freeze-dried typically is it is waste proof, okay? Let's say that there's only me and I have a 24-ounce can of chili. I open it up in a post-disaster scenario. I open up that can of chili. It's way more than I can eat. If I don't have refrigeration, then I'm going to throw that away. So I'm going to waste it. So I may have saved some money by buying in bulk. Even worse with a number 10 can. So I save money per ounce by buying in bulk. But if it's only me and I open it up and I don't have a way to store it until the next meal, I've got to throw it away. That's waste. Whereas with freeze-dried foods, you only rehydrate what you actually intend to eat. Now, that can come in either form, whether it's the fact that you're going to have a meal, something like a Mountain House meal. I love their chili mac. You just add hot water and bang, you got a meal. Nutrient Survival has some great meals. They have mac and cheese. They have lasagna. They have Southwestern breakfast. They call it Southwestern Scramble. I mean, there's all kinds of great meals that are available. You just take out however much you intend to eat, rehydrate it, and cook it. Now, with that, there's, as I'm saying that, I have to differentiate between Mountain House and Nutrient Survival and others, okay? So when you have a prepared meal, like with Mountain House and Nutrient Survival, all you have to do is boil the water and add the water to it, and then the water, as it rehydrates, because these are pre-cooked, so as the water rehydrates, the hot water rehydrates the meal, it's also warming it up and cooking it in essence, so you eat it straight out of the package. There are others, that you mixed and matched them, like let's say a Thrive Life or Algerson Farms or Emergency Essentials, and you get corn and some of the other things. Then you can only take out what you want, but you may have to cook some of those. So you may have to rehydrate it, and then after you rehydrate it, cook it. Now, I know that the meats, primarily with Thrive Life, are pre-cooked. So all you have to do is warm those up, but you're going to cook them like you would a normal field. This came in today, my Amazon subscribe and save. It's supposed to have been here on the 1st, but they were out of stock, so they finally sent it to me. These are uncooked, freeze-dried beef patties. And so these, once I rehydrate them, I'll have to cook them like a normal beef patty. So, that's one of those advantages of the components. I saw a comment by Sue. I want to go up here and catch one of these comments. I'm messing with my mouse, so, and you know how that is. Tammy's a canner as well. Rebecca says some of it's delicious, just eat out of the can. Yes. For example, Thrive Life's mushrooms, man, you can take a mushroom out of the can and they're fruits. The pineapple, the strawberries. They have some freeze-dried grapes. They have, but all the fruits, man, you can do that just straight out of the can. The freeze-dried bananas are great out of the can. So some of the items, yeah, you absolutely, just straight out of the can, you can just really scarf them down. Oh yeah, and that's an advantage too of home canning. And it's also, there's another part of that called meal in a jar. So you can take freeze-dried components and make your own meal, and that's called, and so you mix the components into a jar, and all you have to do is rehydrate that and cook it or boil it or whatever. Then you have a meal in a jar. And what Tuck by B is talking about is you can take menus and basically cook those menus and then can that and store that so that you've got something great. Sumi says, but you can take a number 10 can and recan it into smaller glass jars. Yeah, you can apportion it out and reseal a lot of things. I'll give you an example. If I open a number 10 can of meat, what I could do, if I have the grid, if I have electrical power, I could reapportion that out and then vacuum seal those, right? And that's going to do pretty much the same thing. Or I could put a oxygen absorber inside of a bag, a Mylar bag, and seal that. Then I can basically re-vacuum seal those in that way. Or you can recan them if you have the equipment to do that. So you have to consider, once again, the reason that you bought the number 10 can was to reduce the overall cost per serving. Okay. If you're going to recan it, and you got to add into account the cost of the canning equipment and supplies. And so that may throw it out to where it's not cost advantageous to get the larger cans. You may be better off getting the smaller ones. Originally, I was almost exclusively small can guy, simply because, and that was before we got the whole house solar and everything else years ago. I was primarily a small can guy because I was very astutely aware of waste. I didn't want to open something up and then have to throw some away. So I wanted to get as small a can as possible and then use that instead of having any waste. Now that it appears that the apocalypse is hours away, if not days or weeks, then what I'm doing is I'm getting as much as my money can get to last me through whatever's going to be happening. So there's discussions about recipes. Yes, thank you, Kaylin, for reminding me of that. They do have meals in a pouch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and different things. But and Mountain House also has freeze-dried ice cream. So I mean, there's all kinds of desserts and everything else. That yes, absolutely. Let me see. Cranberries I really like the cranberries. Yes, you are absolutely correct. Those very seldom do you see those. There are some things that are kind of sporadic. You only see them maybe 2 months out of the year. It's getting to the point where tomatoes, they're hard to find. If you see them on the website, get them. Green onions are another one that's very difficult to get through Thrive Life. Cranberries are very seasonal. They only come out like maybe 2 or 3 months out of the year. So there are some things that when you see them, grab them. There was, for a while, they had diced ham. And I picked up a couple of cans of diced ham. Then they discontinued it. For about 2 years, they had shrimp. I probably have a dozen of the small number 2.5 cans of freeze-dried shrimp. They no longer do that. So you get what you can when you can. Yes, Rebecca, you're absolutely right. They do have mangoes. I don't have any. What we concentrate on is blueberries, blackberries, peaches. Although I do a lot of canned peaches as well. I'm planning on a lot of cobbler in a post-apocalyptic world. Okay, so let me see. Churn Dash Farm. Good evening. Welcome. Haven't seen you before, but we're so happy that you're here with us. No, I don't. However, I was up at the Bell County Emergency Preparedness Group meeting last month, and this was up in Harker Heights, just east of Fort Hood. And the guy's house that we met at, he sent home 4 limes with me. And he had a lime tree that was only 2 years old in a 10-gallon bucket. And it was in the second year, and he was producing limes that were this big around. He probably had 4 dozen limes on that tree. And so he convinced me. Now, he had it in his garage because of the cold snap. But he convinced me, that's something I got to do. We do have strawberries that we grow out in the backyard, but no trees. So I do need to get a lime tree. Well, Muskoka Oma, thank you. That's very nice of you. To remind me of my failure, Happy New Year, everybody. We did do one since Christmas, but it is a new year. Happy New Year. Thank you for accommodating me and allowing me to participate in the emergency net on Monday evenings at 8 o'clock and agreeing to move this to Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock. I know it's an inconvenience for you, but thank you so much for your consideration and allowing me to do this. I love pears. I love pears, so that you make me jealous. Um, doing protein is great. I think that's going to be. There's Darlene. So I told you that there are 4 people I've met. Okay, actually 5. I forgot about Sharon. So we've got Sharon, Darlene, Sue, Rebecca, and John are the 5 that I've met. Oh no, 6. Pete. How can I forget Pete? Triple G Farms. So gosh, so many of you that wow. Isn't it great that they have such fantastic people around? Let me see. Okay. So we talked primarily about the freeze-dried products. Pretty easy to do. Then he also talks about dehydrated. Now, dehydrated, you don't get quite the nutrition or the taste as you do with freeze-dried, but they're very close. So I would say either one is going to be good for you. Both of them typically have a shelf life, if you store them properly, of about 25 years. And that's going to be in a cool, dark place, temperature controlled. You don't want them to get too hot. You don't want them to freeze and thaw and freeze and thaw. However, one of the things I think a lot of us don't do is we don't take into consideration the fact we have temperature control up until SHTF. Once SHTF happens, we probably are not going to have temperature control. So plan accordingly. So if you're getting close to the in life expectancy of a freeze-dried can of ground beef, you've had it for 23 years and SHTF happens, make sure you're rotating, taking your oldest products and using them first, and then going on to the other stuff. Gen X, I'm in Texas, Central Texas. Nope, over here. There you go. Texas flag. Yeah. And then, of course, we're the home of Buc-ee's. Where's my Buc-ee's? Here's Buc-ee's. No, ta-da. Buc-ee's is our home, too. And then I've got this Don't Mess with Texas. You're going to see all kinds of Texas stuff. We're very proud. 303rd ASA Battalion, now it's 303rd MI Battalion, is also here in Texas at Fort Hood. And let me see, anything else? Do I have anything else Texas up there? Oh, well. Of course, CERT, my CERT group is here in Texas. My Aries group is here in Texas. My Ham Club is here in Texas. Texan, originally from El Paso, but now I'm in the greater Austin area. Gen X, doesn't matter. Thank you for being here. We greatly appreciate you listening. And we hope that you get together with other like-minded people in your area because you're going to hear at the end that one of the things that I advocate is we're all in this together. We've got to stick it out together. He includes a Sumi has read the book. I can tell. Our next topic is he includes making sure that you include jerky in your overall planning. So, basically drying meats and things like that, jerky and smoking and things like that. He also talks about non-perishable staples, the building blocks of survival meals. If you aren't taking advantage of the LDS Preparedness store, they have one called the Provident Living Store, LDS Latter-day Saints, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. What do we call it? Preparedness store. Just go to LDS.com, Preparedness, LDS Preparedness. And they have number 10 cans of some fantastic products. As a matter of fact, I can share. Let me get to my Excel spreadsheet and look for LDS. There we go. LDS. Okay, now I can go back here and I can share screen. And we're going to come down here. Oh no, I can't do that. I gotta do it a different way. Let me see. Present slides and PDFs. Is that it? My computer. No, I can't. I can't show you my Excel spreadsheet. But so here are some of the things that you can get from the LDS Provident Living Center. That's the name of it, Provident Living Center. So I have apple slices, black beans. These are all number 10 cans. Apple slices, black beans, pinto beans, Great Northern beans, refried beans. They no longer sell the refried beans. They stopped those about 6 years ago. Carrots, white flour, macaroni, non-fat milk, quick oats, regular oats, dry onions, pancake mix, potato flakes, which is basically mashed potatoes, white rice, spaghetti bites, and that's basically spaghetti noodles that are maybe 2 or 3 inches long. Strawberries, that's a brand new one. It's only been in their inventory now. I don't even think it's a year old yet. Granulated sugar, hard red wheat, and hard white wheat. Now those are before they've been milled, so that's going to last you a little bit longer. And but you have to grind those into a flour. So all of those are available from LDS Provident Living Store. Very, very inexpensive. Take care, Muskoka Oma. Have a great evening. Laura says it's very easy to dehydrate sliced onions and especially spinach. I have a lot of onions. I'm an onion fanatic. And spinach. So spinach and cabbage are two of the things, and kale. Spinach, cabbage, and kale are three of the leafy greens that are very easy to acquire as far as having a leafy green in a post-apocalyptic world. We get our cabbage in two ways. One of them is red cabbage, rotkohl, which is Aunt Nellie's red cabbage at the grocery store. And then we also do sauerkraut in cabbage. And then for, I wish there was a canned kimchi or gaktegi, but they're in jars and they have because they are so highly fermented, they have a tendency to explode. And I get in trouble when kimchi explodes in the refrigerator. Then we also have spinach you can get canned or you can get freeze-dried. Kale you can get freeze-dried. So, those are some of the leafy greens you might want to consider having in your pantry as well. So, he talks about the staples and having plenty of those. Plan your flour. How much flour are you going to need to make bread? And then, so if you want to have, let's say, 2 loaves of bread a week, and so you're going to have to plan your bread, your yeast, and everything accordingly to do that. You also might want to consider having some things like biscuits or pancake mix or things like that, grain stuff that you're going to have for your foods. So stuff that he says provides a well-rounded nutritional profile. Chia seeds, hemp seeds, tahini, nutritional yeast. I bought a bag of that a little while back. And that's just yeast that you don't use it for baking. You add it as a supplement to your food. Dried seaweed, canned dairy. He talks about one here, canned soups and stews. If you are new into prepping, I think the biggest bang for the buck is going to be for you to stockpile soups. Now here, Chili Mac, Sumi brought me a couple cans of Chili Mac, as a matter of fact. There is canned Chili Mac, and that's a fantastic thing that I think Campbell's makes that. Then you've got, my favorite soup is clam chowder, but you've also got the condensed soups. And so I think that there are 4 condensed soups that everybody needs to have in their pantry because they're going to be the foundation for almost any other soup you're going to make. And that is chicken, cream of chicken, cream of mushroom, tomato, and cheese, cream of cheese. So if you have those 4 soups, you can pretty much make any kind of a soup that you want to with those 4. So that's going to be something you can do. Triple G, have a great evening. Thank you for dropping by. Greatly appreciate you, and I miss you. So with those 4, you can make pretty much anything. Think about, if you saw my last haul video, you know that I have a progress in which I'm going to feed. So for the first week or 2, we're going to be very conscious of odor control and everything else. And so we're going to have MREs, and we're going to have foods that are like Mountain House and nutrient survival, where it's just add hot water. The only thing I have to do is heat up some water, add it to it, and we got a meal. That's going to be for the first couple of weeks. Okay, I don't want any odor or anything going outside the house. Then we'll start consuming some of the other stuff. Okay. Remember that most canned goods you can eat safely straight out of the can. They are cooked. Okay. So you can also go that route. I don't want other people who are starving knowing that we have food. Well, here's another prepper tip I'll throw in. Go to a secondhand store and get some clothing that is one size larger than what you normally wear. That way, if anybody comes around distributing food, put on the clothing that makes you look like you've lost weight while you go out and take advantage of it, as just like everybody else is. You don't want to be the fat man in the kingdom of starving people. Okay. So the only way that you can convince people that you're not the fat man in the kingdom of starving people is your clothes don't fit anymore. So go out and buy your larger size clothes now, so that they think that you are in the same boat that they are and don't have as much food. Soups, get lots of soups. If you saw my haul video, I had 2 number 10 cans of egg noodles. Why? Because I like the Bear Creek country foods. And one of them that I have a lot of, and I vacuum seal them, is the Bear Creek chicken noodle soup. So every one of those packages of chicken noodle soup, I can add a can of carrots, or a can of carrots and peas, or a can of mixed vegetables to it. I can add a can of chicken, and then I can add more noodles, add some chicken broth or some chicken bouillon, and I can convert a package that was designed originally for 8 people into a meal that will feed 20. So think about those things. How can you take something small and multiply that? Bear Creek has a vegetable soup. Same thing. A can of mixed vegetables, some freeze-dried beef, and some tomato sauce or tomatoes or something like that. You've got a great meal that people will love. And so think about how you can expand things. I will gladly feed after the end of the first month after SHTF. If you've done enough to keep yourself alive for 4 weeks, I will keep you alive afterwards. But I don't have enough food to keep the entire world alive for those 4 weeks. Okay. I know some people may think that that's disrespectful or not considerate. The way I look at it is, you should have planned. Canned fish, get lots of it. I like this canned trout that they have. Tuna is probably one of the better things. Tuna, salmon. I have all kinds of canned shrimp, the little bitty shrimp. I have canned clams. Add that to the clam chowder. I use the canned shrimp. Okay, you can add that to Zatarain's or Tony Chachery's gumbo mix, and have a shrimp gumbo or a shrimp Creole, all those different things, shrimp and dirty rice. But think of all the different things you can do with those little bitty cans of shrimp, or little cans of tiny shrimp, cocktail shrimp, I think they're called. Dried fruits and nuts, multivitamins. Don't forget your multivitamins. That's going to be extremely important as well. One of the ones I'm going to recommend that you do is B12. I think a lot of people take it, don't realize how important B12 is. So, let me catch up on chat here real quick. Yeah, that darn good chili is great. And so there are a couple ways you can get the beef to add to that. You can get the ground beef and freeze dried, and that comes, you can get that Augustin Farms. You can get Emergency Essentials. You can get that from Thrive Life, or Keystone has cans of ground beef. Now I get both. I get the freeze dried from Augustin Farms and Thrive Life, and I get the canned from Keystone. The reason I get the canned from Keystone is so I can make meatloaf. Okay. The disadvantage, remember, everything has advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage of freeze-dried ground beef, crumbled ground beef, is you just can't get it to stick together, which is why I buy preformed patties, okay, and that are freeze-dried. And I also buy Shelf to Table is a great company, and they have freeze-dried meatloaf. And so it's only like 4 little slices of meatloaf for, I think it's about $12 if I remember right. But they do have meatloaf, so I get their meatloaf. Shelf to Table is the name of that company. Don't forget overall nutrition and making sure you're getting all your nutrients and vitamins and everything else. Now, nutrient survival. Everything is mineral, nutrient, vitamin enhanced. I mean, these guys are looking out for your overall welfare and really adding great supplements to the foods that they are producing. It is a little bit costlier than the normal foods, but when you take a look at it and you say, I'm getting the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, and everything else included in my meal, I don't have to buy separate stockpile of minerals and capsules and everything else that may expire, whereas these have 25-year shelf life. You have to kind of do that. What are the advantages, disadvantages, and come to the conclusion what's best for you. Personal dietary things, for example, we do have certain dietary restrictions here in our family that we have to do. He has 10 steps to a well-stocked pantry. I want to go through that real quick. It doesn't tell me anymore. What is this? It's not telling me how much time we've been on this year. And so, about 8:42. Usually there's a thing up here in StreamYard, but this is a new StreamYard that tells me how long we've been on the air. And I'm not seeing that. So keep me straight. Don't let me keep anybody past what we should be. Yeah, so Sumi says that she adds D3, K2, and C. Vitamin D is also important, absolutely. Mother Earth Garden Club, good evening, welcome. Yes, absolutely true. I'm not a sardine fan, Tammy, so I can't recommend that to you. You're going to have to. Gen X Gemini. Yes, I am a veteran. I did 21 years active duty. I was started out as a 98 Bravo Russian, which is a Russian code breaker. Then they did away with that and computerized it. NSA turned it all into computer operations. And so I went back and became a 98 Gulf Russian, a Russian voice intercept operator. So I listened to the Russians on the radio. And then my last 8 years, I was appointed a warrant officer. And so I was a 352 Charlie, which is a signals intelligence, electronic warfare analysis and reporting technician. So I would analyze everything that the voice intercept operators did, along with Morse intercept operators and teletype intercept operators and all the other intercept operators, put all that together, and then I'd write reports and give those to the command echelons so that they can make decisions. And I also did a lot of targeting recommendations. So that's what I did. 21 years military intelligence. Darlene, we got to get together. I got to get some of your dehydrated cabbage. I am a cabbage lover like you would not believe. The German comes out in me. Okay, so 10 steps to a well-stockpile pantry. He's really got this nailed. You guys really need to get a copy of this book and put it in your library. Start small, plan your meals, organize regularly, label and date. I think you notice that in my pantry hauls, I always put the date with one of these. I keep it right here, handy. So this is a broad tip Sharpie, so that I can date everything that comes in. And now I do it different than a lot of people. A lot of people will look at the bottom of the can, see the best by date, and they'll put the best by date on it. But there's a lot of stuff you'll get that does not have a best by date. So I just decided I want to have one date on everything, and that's the day I put it in Stockpile. Now cans, I had a can of, the other day, Helen decided we were just going to have soups. And so I opened a can of clam chowder, and that clam chowder was put in Stockpile in 2019. So that can was 5 years old, and it was fine. I had no adverse effects from it at all. Monitor your expiration dates. So that basically rotate. Eat your stuff that's been in there longest first, and then restock. To give you an example, tonight we had schnitzel, and we had rotkohl, red cabbage, and we also had spätzle mit champignon, so spätzle with mushrooms. And so I've got to go restock. I've got to replace that jar of red cabbage that we ate. I've got to replace the package of spätzle that we ate. And because we're at the point now to where we take from the long-term pantry into the short-term pantry, short-term pantry into cooking. And so now we've moved that whole thing down. So now I have shortages in my long-term pantry. Earlier this week, we used up a can of 3-bean salads. So this is a replacement going into the long-term pantry because we pulled that one out of our short-term pantry and then replaced it from the long-term pantry. So, that is a constantly ongoing thing. So don't forget to include essentials like salt, sugar, cooking oil. I think you'll see in my pantry hauls, you'll see that I get bacon up. I'll get ghee. I'll get little bottles of olive oil. And then I also get smaller cans of Crisco. And so I kind of alternate those on different weeks. And so I have a large stockpile of those that I can go through for quite a while. Yeah, we're still trying to figure out what this wicked cough is. I think people look at me and think I have COVID, but it's very productive. My pulmonologist has given up on me. And, I probably get doxycycline and prednisone every 3 months. And so he sent me to an ENT thinking that it was sinus related and a postnasal drip. And the ENT said, well, I don't know what it is. Everything looks good to me. He says, but what I can do is I can give you a nasal wash that you use twice a day. And it's going to contain prednisone and antibiotics. So I'm going to squirt, antibiotics and prednisone up into my nose and through my sinus system twice a day. And that's going to end up being about $156 copay on both of my, I'm using both of my insurance plans, and it still ends up being $156 a month in copay. And I said, nah, that's okay. I'll live with the cough. Prioritize your water. Make sure you have plenty of water. Make sure you have a way of collecting it, cleaning it, and storing it. So all three of those become extremely important. Don't forget to separate your dirty water from your clean water and have a way of being able to readily identify which water has not yet been sanitized and which water is sanitized. Consider special diets, add variety, and educate your family. So then practical tips for doing it on a budget. So he has all kinds of great ideas on how to do it for a budget. Don't forget to plan meals. So that you, I think I showed my card system. It's in the other room. I should have brought it in here. But I have, for example, a meal so that I planned out that meal. Let's say we're going to have a can of chili mac. We're going to have some Kool-Aid as a drink along with that. We're going to have a dessert. We're going to have a bread product. So all the ingredients for that is listed out. And then I can put that into my annual spreadsheet. So I know if I have clam chowder, crackers, Kool-Aid, and a dessert 12 times in a year, I need all of these components. Then I can make sure that my pantry has all those components. Make sure you check things like milk and cheese, fruits and nuts, canned fish, all that kinds of stuff. Just great ideas in this book. So let's go see where we are in the chat once again. Rebecca, have a nice evening. Let me know when you head this way again. I'll be happy to see you again. Forest Homestead, Idaho, good evening. Good to see you. So once again, this is my personal timeline on how I'm going to do it. Does not mean it's the right way. Does not mean it's the only way. It's just Lee's way, okay? I am going to be first off, I'm going to buy clothes, or I already have clothes, that are a size larger than what I need so that I look slightly malnourished, so that if a food delivery comes by and they're delivering, let's say, MREs or anything like that, and I go out and stand in line, I am going to look comparatively as emaciated as my neighbors. I don't want to be the fat king in a land of starving people. That will give away that I have stuff inside my house. You also want to make sure you participate with them in the same way, because if you don't show up, then they think, you don't need to, right? So you're going to give yourself away. So participate just as they do, but do it in clothes that are slightly larger than what you would normally wear. Make sure that inside your house for those first 3 weeks or so, that you're only heating water at a maximum and adding it to freeze-dried foods. MREs would be perfect for this, so that you aren't doing anything that gives away any odor or any smell. So you want to make sure that you have some smell control, odor control, and so that people don't know that you're cooking inside your home. Okay. Then maybe at the end of the first month, we can go into some of the other more intricate things, like, rehydrating these burgers, making some buns in the oven, and going out in the grill, cranking up the grill and having burgers and fries and things like that. So think about that timeline on how you're going to be, how you are going to be as minimally, how do I want to say this? You want to be clandestine. There we go. You want to be clandestine in the fact that you don't want everybody to know exactly what you're doing, or else they're all going to come and try to take it from you. So Holly Ivans is talking about purchasing wax and waxing your cheese. Great idea. Of course, I try to buy it waxed in the first place. There are a couple now. You can get freeze-dried cheese. My order coming this month, and it should be here tomorrow. Friday. I'm sorry. Should be here Friday. My Thrive Life order. I have cheddar cheese and I have mozzarella, a can of cheddar and a can of mozzarella freeze-dried. Then you also there's some Australian cheese. I forget the name of it, but there's a cheese you can get on Amazon. Comes in a can. And Bodega or something. I forget what the name of it is, but anyhow, there's a cheese you can get in the can. Then you can also get any waxed cheese. Hard cheeses last better, and waxed hard cheeses last longer. So that would be fantastic. What a great Churn Dash farm. You are exactly right. So I think one of the things we all need to do, Bega cheese. Thank you, Kaylin. So one of the things we all need to do is, I think we're going to be returning to a 19th century lifestyle. So there are a lot of things we're going to have to learn how to do. And one of those is making cheese, making butter, churning cheese, and then processing cheese and everything else. I think we're going to have a very steep learning curve. And it's essential we learn as much of it now as we can before we go, which is why having a library of books like this is critical, because we're going to need those reference tools to go back to in a post-apocalyptic world, so we know what we're doing. It's virtually impossible to know everything. although the ancient, the farmers in the Old West and the Western pioneers, gosh, they managed to know an awful lot more than I do or anybody else will. Sumi says, tempeh, kefir, and kombucha starter. The only starter I have right now is sourdough starter. So yeah. Yeah, Tuck by V says that odor would be very, very hostile for him if they had, if cooking odors got out. Red feather, that's another great one that can be got on Amazon. Absolutely. I have a butter churn just in case. Now we have cattle farm or cattle ranch, I should say. We've got, let me see, we've got houses over here. We've got a cattle ranch over here. We've got a horse ranch over here. And then we've got all hay fields over here. So, but I'm sure the cattle that they have are longhorns. So I'm sure that they've got them for beef, but I'm sure that they have a couple cows and that are probably lactating that we could get some milk off of. So, but then, there are some dairy farms just almost due east of us, maybe a couple miles, but not that bad. Let me see where else we are. So here's another thing for those of you who, like I am, are suburban, on the edge of the urban area, transitioning into rural area. Make sure you go to your farmers markets, make good contacts with the farmers, make sure that you are supporting them in your local area, get to know them. It's going to be a lot easier to barter with somebody than it is with somebody you don't know. And so if they see you walking up to their place and they know you, it'll be a lot easier for you to approach them and offer something in exchange for milk or butter or anything like that than it will be if you were an unknown. So now is the time to establish those relationships. So make sure you attend your farmers markets on Saturday mornings. Make sure you're establishing those connections. I'm very lucky. Most of the farmers go to the same church I do. So, that's great right there. Absolutely, Kaylin. Kaylin, you're coming up with such great ideas and recommendations this evening. One of the farmers just east of us is a goat farmer, and she said, and she's trying to convince me to do everything goat. Goats reproduce at a faster rate than do cattle. Their milk is a little bit more tolerant to humans than is bovine milk, and there's all kinds of reasons why she thinks that the goats are actually a better product to have to live off of in a post-apocalyptic world than our bovine species. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry, Theoxorus. Oh, by the way, good evening. Welcome. So Darlene makes homemade sauerkraut. That's great. Yeah, I just have to keep everything underneath the level of the liquid. I agree. We still have them here. A lot of greenhouses. And if the HOA would allow me, I'd love to have a greenhouse in the backyard. I have a problem with yogurt. I don't do organs. The only organ I've ever eaten in my life is liverwurst, Leberkäse, German Leberkäse. Now and it has a totally different taste. But I typically will not eat any organs. I also will not eat anything that I consider to still be alive, and yogurt is still alive. So, the doctor wanted me to eat some probiotics and strongly recommended yogurt. I had to find something else besides yogurt for a probiotic. So, I just, that's just personal. Okay. I would say, yes, yogurt and what's the bean that the hummus comes from? chickpeas or what's garbanzo beans. Okay, those are very nutritional. I strongly recommend those as well. Okay, so next week we are going to get into chapter 3, and chapter 3 is going to be stockpiling techniques and personalized preparedness. So we'll be talking about that next week. Is Wednesday night working out for you all? Is it going to be okay versus Monday night? And yeah, Gen X, Jim, and I could tell you some horror stories. I've got an attorney working for me for free. Basically, our HOA isn't even in compliance with its own bylaws. Supposed to have meetings to do certain things. It's not doing it. So yeah, I mean, I am working with my local legislator, and we are writing a bill because right now the only way you can get an HOA to comply is to sue them, and we don't like that because I have to spend money for the attorney, and if I lose, I pay for both. If I win, I pay for both because as the HOA has to hire an attorney to defend themselves, and then how do they recoup that HOA? How do they recoup that attorney fee? Increasing my HOA dues. So I pay for it both ways. So that is a terrible way of having to get them to comply. So I'm writing a bill with my legislator to have the an HOA oversight organization within the state government. It could be in the Secretary of State's office because they do licensing. It could be in the real estate office, real estate board. It could be in the land commissioner's office. Any one of those three I'm good with. And but anyhow, then the citizen, the member of the HOA could complain to them about the noncompliance of the HOA, and then they could intervene and take action without having to sue, without incurring all kinds of additional costs, and force compliance with, for example, the bylaws. So there's all kinds of things we can do to make that happen, but we need legislation to make it work. Tuck by V likes Braunschweiger. Absolutely. That's a great brand. Don't know what that is. Pickled herring, I've done, but unfortunately, Holly, here in Texas, that's kind of difficult. Almost everybody is HOA'd here. It's very difficult to find land that is not, or at least subdivisions that are not. So I think that's it. Everybody, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here. Please watch out, especially those of you along that line where we're going to have really bad weather this evening. That's going to be Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, the Ozark area, moving into Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina. I think it's going to make the western edge of North Carolina. They're going to get hit once again. That whole area is going to have terrible evening tonight going into tomorrow. We're going to have freezing rain, slush, and everything else here. So, pray for us here. We don't want a repeat of 2021. We don't even want a repeat of 2023, but, we'll take what we get. I think we're kind of prepared for it. I've got a radio out in the backyard that was solar charging that I've got to go get because the sun's down and I want to bring it in so it doesn't freeze. But other than that, we're doing pretty well. Let me grab my Bible and let's see if we can't get everybody out of here on time this evening. Don't forget to come back and leave a comment afterwards. That really helps with the algorithm. Maybe we can see some more new people like we have this evening. So Book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24, 25, 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. So, thank you all for being here. I can't tell you how much it means to me. Thank you for your wonderful ideas, suggestions, and everything sharing this evening. If you get a chance, Kaylin Strain, who had a lot of great comments this evening. Kaylin, do me a favor. Put your link here in the comments real quick. Kaylin on Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Central Time does a taste test of different MREs. And so she'll walk you through all the different MREs. She does both U.S. as well as foreign countries MREs. And so you can get an idea of which ones you might want to purchase there. So thank you all so much for being here. Remember that we're all in this together so we can come out at the other side together. Please continue to be kind, polite, and respectful to each other, because we're going to get through this together. Take care, everybody. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.